Hello friend, welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name is Samantha. I'm a flight attendant and I like to take you along on all of my adventures. Unfortunately, my adventures have been lacking recently because I had ACL surgery and I haven't worked in 5 months. It has been a really hard, really sad 5 months, just being honest. Hardest thing I've ever been through, and I really miss flying. But your girl, she's going back soon. I will be flying again very soon, and I cannot wait because I can't wait to take you along on my trips. And I also have a lot of fun personal travel planned for 2024, and I can't wait to take you along on those trips too. Speaking of 2024, hopefully you've been setting some amazing goals for the new year, and perhaps one of those goals is to become a flight attendant. And if so, you have come to the right place, because if your goal is to become a flight attendant, then my goal is to help get you there. I have a ton of videos planned to help you go through the process of becoming a flight attendant, from applying and interviewing, training, what the job is actually like. And if your goal in 2024 is to become a flight attendant, hopefully I can help you get there, because I may be biased, but I think it's the best job in the world. So when I was trying to figure out where I wanted to start and what I wanted to record first, I naturally went toward the application process, because you would think that's the first place to start. You have to apply in order to start the process. But then I thought about it and I was like, that's actually not true. I think the first real step to becoming a flight attendant is having realistic expectations for what the job is like, because it's not a normal job, and I think a lot of people go into it not realizing what they're getting into. And like I said, I may be biased, but I really do think it's the most amazing job in the world. But if you start and don't realize what you're getting into, you might not fall in love with it, and that would break my heart. Because if you want to be a flight attendant, it's been on your mind, it's all you can think about. You're probably meant to be a flight attendant, but there are a couple factors that you need to think about before you even dive into the process. Otherwise, once you get your dream job, you might end up hating it, and I really don't want that. So in this video, I'm going to share 5 things that I wish I knew before becoming a flight attendant. 5 things that you should think about, consider, before you even begin the application process. Let's get started. Here's 5 things that I wish I knew before becoming a flight attendant. Number 1, flight attendants don't make a lot of money. And this is something that you have probably heard before, but I just want to talk about it in a different way. I want to put it into perspective instead of just being like, oh, flight attendants don't make enough money, don't do it, you're not going to get paid what you're worth. That's not true, because money is subjective. What's a lot of money to me might not be a lot of money to you. And there's a lot of factors that come into play with whether what you're gonna make is enough money or not. Your financial situation is going to look different if you are 21, you live at home with your parents, you don't have a lot of bills, and you just want enough money to get by, travel, have fun, maybe save a little bit of money. That's a different situation than someone who is older, has a bunch of bills, a lot of responsibilities, a family. Those are 2 very different scenarios. So I don't think it's fair to just say, oh, flight attendants, they don't make a lot of money, don't bother. With that being said, I will agree with that statement. Flight attendants, we don't make a lot of money, especially starting out. Now, your pay will vary based on your airline, how much you work, etc., etc. But across the board, you're going to spend a lot of time working for free. And what I mean by this is a lot of flight attendants, we don't get paid for boarding. We don't get paid from the time that we are expected to be at work. And in general, at the end of the month, when you get your paycheck, you're going to feel like, wow, I worked a lot of hours for free. And that can feel pretty defeating, but that's the reality of the job. So let me go into the details of flight attendant pay, how we get paid, how often we get paid, and just break it down a little bit for you, because obviously pay is important. It doesn't matter what your situation is. We want to know, what are we going to get paid? First of all, Most airlines will pay bi-weekly, which means 2 times a month. Second of all, most airlines have what they call a guarantee. This means that if you are a reserve flight attendant, no matter how much you work, you're still going to get paid a guarantee. This can be anywhere from 75 to 80 hours a month. Plus, you'll get per diem. So all of the hours you spend away from home, you'll get $1, $2, maybe a little more per hour for all the hours you spent away from home. So let me give you an example. Let's say you make $30 an hour and you worked 95 hours. Do the math, that's $2,850. That is your base pay for that month. Let's say you worked 4 trips throughout the month and every trip you worked, you were away from home 70 hours. If your per diem is $2 an hour times the 70 hours that you were away from home, that's an extra $140 every trip. So if you worked 4 trips and for each trip you were away from home for 70 hours, that would be a total of $560 per diem. Add that to your base pay of $2,850 and you're left with a little over $3,400 for the month. Now, the way that the pay works in my experience, again, this is my experience with the airlines I've worked for. Usually what airlines do is they take your guarantee and they'll split it in half. So your first paycheck will be half of your guarantee. Your second paycheck will be the other half of your guarantee. One of these paychecks, usually the one later in the month, is going to include all of the extra hours that you worked the previous month plus your per diem. What this means is that normally you'll have a smaller paycheck and then your other paycheck will be much larger because it's going to have all of the extra hours you worked over your guarantee plus any per diem you made. I know this sounds like a bunch of gibberish, but just to give you a simple idea of what you're going to make when you start out as a flight attendant, I think a good number would be between $2,500 and $3,500 a month. This is obviously going to vary based on the airline you work for, but I think that's a good starting range to have in your mind if you're trying to figure out, like, can I financially afford to be a flight attendant? $2,500 to $3,500 is a good ballpark. Hopefully that didn't confuse you too much, and hopefully you learned something because this is an important thing to know. A lot of people have no idea how the pay works, and even once you're a flight attendant, it's confusing. I'm always reviewing my paychecks, like, did they pay me right? And it's so hard. As far as not getting paid for boarding, I really do see that changing in the future, not just at one specific airline. I think across the board, we will all start getting paid from the time we're required to be there. Because for most airlines, you're gonna have to be at the airport ready to go 45 minutes to an hour before your trip even starts. And you're not gonna get paid for any of that. When people talk about not getting paid enough, that's what they're talking about, and I'm hoping that we will see some changes with that because it honestly doesn't make a lot of sense to be required to be at work but not getting paid for it. Anyways, that's all I have to say on that. Moving on. Number 2 is that eating is really, really difficult as a flight attendant. I don't know why. This is the one thing that I swear people just don't think about before becoming a flight attendant, but when you're out there working a trip, it's really hard to eat. If you're not prepared and you don't pack your food, you're gonna struggle. And you might be thinking, oh, well, I'm in airports, I can just buy food on my little sits and my little layovers, and when I get to the hotel, I can just go out to eat, I can order food, the hotel has breakfast, I can eat breakfast for free. Stop right there. Stop right there. Because I promise you, it's not that easy. Not only is it not easy, but it's expensive. If you're buying every single meal out when you're working, there's no paycheck left, okay? No paycheck. We don't want that. We're already struggling with our pay enough. We don't want to spend every single penny we make on food to survive to go to work. We're not gonna do that because we wanna save our money so we can travel and enjoy the lovely benefits that we get as flight attendants. Before you even start the process of becoming a flight attendant, you are gonna get really, really good at meal prepping or finding some type of meal prep service that works well for you. Either way, you're gonna bring food. And practicing that starts long before you start working, because once you start working, you're gonna be like, oh my gosh, I'm so stressed out. And the last thing you're gonna wanna think about is how to meal prep. So start now. You gotta pack your food, you gotta meal prep. 1, buying food on your trips is ridiculously expensive. 2, it gets old because you're gonna fly to the same airports, the same areas, you're gonna have the same food options. It's usually gonna be gross and greasy. You're not gonna feel good. If you work 3, 4, 5 days in a row just eating like fast food or convenience food, you're not gonna feel great. You're gonna spend a lot of money to feel like crap. Why would you do that to yourself? Also, I don't want you to starve, because let me tell you what has happened to me many, many times. I went to work, I didn't pack my food, I get to my layover, and it's like midnight. 1 in the morning. Nothing in the airport's open. I'm in my hotel, I go on Uber Eats, guess what? Nothing's open. And I'm left hungry. I have no food. Don't be that person. Please don't be that person. Even if meal prepping is hard for you, at least start bringing like snacks. Not like junk snacks, but whatever little healthy things that you can bring, like little mandarin oranges or protein bars. If meal prepping is overwhelming, at least bring something so that when you get in that situation and there's nothing to eat, you have something to eat. We want to go to bed on a nice full belly so we can not be hangry. We can wake up feeling great, ready to be the best flight attendant ever. Happy and full and ready for the day. Number 3, and this is something that I don't think is talked about enough, and that is that being a flight attendant can actually be very lonely. A lot of people go into it thinking like, how could you be lonely? You're surrounded by people all day long. Customers, coworkers, like it's just people. You're around people all day. How could you be lonely? People don't equal connection. You could be in the crowdest room all day long, every day, and still feel alone if you don't have connections. And you're not always going to connect with the people that you work with, and you're not always going to connect with your passengers. Unfortunately, that's just the way it is. Sometimes you won't vibe with your coworkers. They won't want to hang out on the layover. They're going to slam click. You might just not get along. You could have different personalities. And while you're going to work well together because it's your job to work with people, no matter what their personality is, no matter who they are, that doesn't mean you're really going to like them. It doesn't mean that you're going to get along and feel a nice, healthy connection. The same goes with passengers. Of course, you're going to be kind and friendly to everybody that you talk to on the airplane. You're working, it's your job. No matter who they are, what they're doing, you're going to smile, you're going to be nice. But the reality is, you might not connect with your passengers. You might not. You're going to have days where you work all day. It's a really, really long day. And you just felt like you didn't connect with anybody. Even though you were surrounded by people, you just felt alone. And you're going to get to your hotel at the end of the day, get your makeup off, get all of your stuff set up and organized. You're going to sit in bed and you're going to feel lonely. You might feel sad. As you process your day and everything that happened, kind of try to release all of that stress, that overwhelm, you might be left feeling lonely. That breaks my heart because I don't know why this is making me emotional. Whew. It is something that is too overlooked in our career. Pilots, flight attendants, people on the outside think that we never feel alone because we're always around people. That's just not true. And unfortunately, there have been flight attendants in the past who have let that loneliness win. They let that loneliness really get to them, and that's heartbreaking. I share this fact because I want you to be prepared for that and not be blindsided by it, because I think it's so much worse when you're sitting there at the end of the day thinking, why do I feel so alone when I'm surrounded by people all the time? Like, is there something wrong with me? And the answer is no. It's very normal. And I promise you, you can expect to feel that way at least once. I guess all I can say for that is please, please, please know that if you feel alone, It's very normal. There's nothing wrong with you, and you are not alone in how you feel. A lot of flight attendants feel the exact same way. You could reach out to any flight attendant, someone you worked with before, someone on your trip currently, someone from your training class. You can reach out to me. Reach out to me if you feel alone. Please know that you're not alone. All right, that was a little depressing. I'm sorry that I took it there, but I'm just trying to keep it real because I don't want you to be surprised when you experience that. So let's move on from that, please, because it breaks my heart and I can't think about it anymore. Number 4 is that the airline you choose to work for matters. I think a lot of people, when they decide they want to be a flight attendant, their mind goes to 3, maybe 4 specific airlines. It's usually that mainline airline. And I don't know why we do this. I guess people just think that if you work for the big 3, those mainline carriers, that you are a better flight attendant, you're the best of the best. It makes you a real flight attendant compared to any other airline that you could work for. And that's just not true. And I really, really want to break that myth because the airline you choose to work for is crucial. And it really depends on you as a person and your lifestyle and what you're looking for out of the job. It is very possible that you could want to be a flight attendant so bad and end up working for an airline that's just not a good fit. And then you think, oh, this isn't the job for me. When really, you could have picked a different airline that would have been a better fit. I know this to be true from personal experience. So if you don't know me, if this is your first time watching me, I am a flight attendant currently. But I was a flight attendant a few years ago, and then I took a couple of years off to be a stay-at-home mom, and I went back to being a flight attendant. My first time as a flight attendant, I was only 21, and when I applied for a mainline airline because I thought, this is it. If I get hired at this airline, like, I'm a flight attendant. I'm officially a flight attendant. I'm the best of the best. Yada yada, whatever. And it was amazing, right? I got hired and I absolutely loved it. It worked really well for me at that stage in my life. I was 21. I didn't have a lot of responsibilities. Like, I just wanted to travel. I moved to Miami and I just worked to all these international destinations. It was super fun. And then I had my son and I took some time away, but I never stopped thinking about being a flight attendant. I knew that I wanted to be a flight attendant again, but at that stage in my life, things looked a little different. I had a lot of responsibilities. I had a lot of bills. I was settled in a city. I had a child. My life was different. So I think a lot of you don't know this, but I actually work for a regional now. When I was ready to go back, I applied for mainline and regional. I got hired by both, and after I thought about the pros and the cons and my lifestyle and what would work best for me, I chose regional. And I have yet to regret that decision. I absolutely love where I work, and it just fits my lifestyle so much better than mainline. And I have experience with both, and I can tell you that I would not love it as much right now if I was at mainline. There are a ton of factors that you need to consider before choosing an airline. So here are some things that I would think about if I was trying to decide what airline do I want to work for. This has nothing to do with what airline you're going to look best at, what airline's going to make you a real flight attendant. It doesn't matter what airline you work for. You are still a flight attendant. A flight attendant is a flight attendant is a flight attendant. We all get basically the same training. We all do the same job. We show up for work, looking our best. We greet our customers. We take care of them. We make them feel safe. We give them the satisfaction that they're looking for. We take care of any emergencies, medical situations that might arise. We're all doing the same thing. No matter what airline you work for, you're still a flight attendant. You want to think about the bases, of course. Do you live in a certain city and you're close to a base of one specific airline? That could be the airline for you, because maybe you don't want to commute. And that doesn't mean you're going to get that base right out the bat. You might not. But at least if being a flight attendant is your long-term career goal, you're going to get there eventually, and your life is going to be so much better not having to commute. If you're willing to commute, where do you live and what airlines fly back and forth to the closest airport to you? What airline makes the most sense for commuting? Because commuting might not be avoidable in the beginning, but thinking about what that commute is going to look like before you start is very important. Of course, you're going to want to think about pay because different airlines pay different salaries. And I think a common misconception is that a regional airline, you're not going to make anything, so you have to work mainline. And that's not true. I'm actually very, very happy with my salary as a regional flight attendant. And I have the same exact benefits as the mainline flight attendants. Another important thing to think about is what kind of flying do you want to do? You might be sitting there thinking, well, of course, like I want to be a flight attendant. I want to fly international to all these amazing destinations and have these awesome layovers. Well, that's not for everyone, because I can tell you that I used to work mainline and I would do all of the international travel and have layovers in international destinations, and I didn't really love it. Those flights were very long, and by the time you got there and got settled, you were exhausted. And if you wanted to get out and explore, you had to do it then. You have to do it exhausted. You have to give up sleep in some way in order to actually get out and explore. And that just wasn't for me. And there's no shame in not wanting to do that. You could still be a flight attendant and not want to work international. Personally, I love my regional. I work very short flights, and because I have the same benefits, because I have better seniority, because I'm at a regional, I can really shift my schedule around. I can get multiple days off in a row, and I can use those benefits to travel in my own time and have, 4 or 5 days at a destination instead of 10 hours. So yeah, definitely think about what your life is going to look like working the types of trips that you're going to work at your airline. A huge thing to think about would be seniority. Like I just mentioned, at my regional, I am able to get seniority very quickly, and that just makes my job a lot more flexible. I can move my days around, and I pretty much can get any time off that I want because of my seniority. You might not be able to do that at a mainline because you are very junior for a very, very long time. Those are just some things that you should definitely think about when you're choosing your airline. And if this is something that you are interested in, you want to learn more, maybe I can make a video in the future about the differences between regional and mainline, especially because I do have experience with both. Moving on to number 5, and this one is thankfully a little more positive because I absolutely hate being negative about the job. It is the best job in the world. That is number 5. Number 5 is that being a flight attendant is amazing, and it is one of those jobs that once you do it, you'll never be the same. You will never be the same. It is not just a job, it is a lifestyle. Once a flight attendant, always a flight attendant. It just gets in your blood. So with that, I have to say that being a flight attendant is what you make it. And one way that you can just make it the best job in the world is to use your benefits. I think a lot of people, they don't use their benefits because you work all week and you're in the sky, you're flying everywhere, and then you have your days off and you just want to sit at home because you are sick of flying. And I get it. You don't want to get burnt out. Take a couple days and chill. But at least once a month, go somewhere new because you can. Because you have free flights. You have the ability to go to the airport, jump on whatever flight has a seat available, and go explore the world. Make the most of it and use your bennies. So before you hit submit that application, think about your lifestyle. Think about what your future is going to look like as a flight attendant. Think about all of the things I shared. Really get in the right mindset for what your life is going to look like as a flight attendant. I want you to pick the right airline. I want you to know what to expect so that when you start working, you fall in love, you enjoy it, and you make the most of it. That's my goal. So, thank you so much for watching. I hope that you found these tips helpful, and if your goal in 2024 is to become a flight attendant, then I wish you the best of luck. Make sure you hit that subscribe button because I'm going to keep sharing all the tips and tricks and all the things about the lifestyle. I'm going to share my trips, my work trips, my personal trips, and whether you're already living this lifestyle or you want to, I just hope that I can inspire you and encourage you to make the most of it. So thank you so much for watching. Make sure you like this video if you found it helpful, subscribe, and I will see you next time, hopefully back in the sky. And I can't wait.